Salut survivors! Welcome back to 𝗬𝗂𝗃𝗃 channel for another epic Civilization 7 video guide. This week we are diving headfirst into the fascinating world of quarters, exploring what makes some quarter couples truly shine. From the Antiquity Age, through the Exploration Age, and all the way to the Modern Age, we'll uncover synergies that can elevate your city planning and boost your Civ 7 gameplay to the next level. This topic comes straight from you, my awesome subscribers, as a follow-up to the guide on my proposed systematic methodology for urban planning. Naturally, this video continues our journey towards mastering the art of deciding which quarters to build, how to place them, and where they fit the best within your cities. But we are taking things even deeper this time. We'll connect quarters to intricate relationships like the technology trees of each era, as well as other crucial game parameters such as specialists, era changes, river crossings, legacy paths, and more. While the goal is to generalize strategies for flexibility, remember, it's all about adapting to each city unique geography, your gameplay goals, and overarching strategy. So, if you're ready to optimize your city like a Civ 7 Pro, stick around. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss more in-depth Civ 7 content. Let's dive right into it, survivors! So let's start first with the Antiquity Age. And before we go really into it, I think we need to have some general notes on our methodology for the analysis deep dive of today, age after age. For every age, we will look at the different possible good quarter couples, and then, considering the technological tree, we will also look at other parameters, such as the buildings that provide influence, the river crossing buildings. You know, sometimes you want to cross a river with your urban building, and not all buildings can cross a river. We will then look at some particularly interesting buildings and quarters of the era, the relationships to some technologies, and finally, other noticeable aspects. So we'll do this methodology for each of the three ages. It is important to take note that in each of the three ages of the game, there are two buildings for influence and two buildings in order to have extra resource slots in your cities. Also to be noted is that there are 4 ageless buildings in the Antiquities, 2 ageless buildings in the Exploration Age, and finally in the Modern Age. So, let's start with this table, where I have updated compared to last time to add one additional column, the possible quarter couples, where you can see here some are coupled, obviously, and there are different options. Now, during the Antiquity Age, these couples are perhaps a little bit straightforward. It becomes more complicated in the following ages. So we can see here that based on the technological tree, some of these building couples are built earlier than others. Of course, it depends on your situation, etc. But we can generalize and say that, for example, here, the market and the garden will be a good couple. The bath and the fishing quay could be a good couple also as an option. The monument and the villa, the amphitheater and the arena, the barracks and the library, and finally the blacksmith with the academy. Now, a few important pointers. Here is in terms of the influence. Influence for me is a very important resource in the game that prevents you from entering wars, permits to acquire city-states and absorb them into your empire, and much more. So, influence in that age can be earned with 2 different ways. Through the masonry, you will have the monument, and through the wheel, you will have the villa. So it's very peculiar because right if you follow the bottom part of the technological tree, you will unlock these 2 buildings. And this is a good reason why here I couple the masonry monument together with the wheel villa, like 1 and 1. Now, if you do that, then this is the opposite path of the, how to say, scientific, economic path, which is on the upper part, with the writing and the currency. When you go through the writing and the currency, thanks to the currency, you will then unlock the market and the bath, while you will already have obtained through the irrigation, the garden, and then through the sailing, the fishing quay. Other pointer in this Antiquity Age is that if you want to cross a river from your urban district, say you have your city center on one side of a river and you want to cross to the other side of the river, what you can utilize in that age for the navigable river is a fishing quay. And then if you have a regular river, you can and you should utilize it for some bass, because the bass will give you a food bonus and at the same time a growth rate. And this bath can be coupled with a fishing quay if this is on a navigable river. Third pointer, some very powerful building or peculiar ones to be noted is, for example, under navigation, you have the lighthouse. And this lighthouse is extremely good in order to increase your resource slots in your cities. If you do not research navigation and you do not build a lighthouse, you will not have it available in the future eras. And this is also very good if you are targeting an economy legacy. Another very interesting one to mention particularly is a villa, because the villa that you unlock with the wheel, as I was mentioning earlier, will provide you +2 influence. And the adjacency bonus is from the mountains and natural wonders. However, this adjacency bonus will only give on the happiness, not on the influence. So regardless where you place your villa, you will get +2 influence. And at the start of the game, to build 2 or 3 villas in your cities will have a big influence impact over the game. Therefore, I would highly consider the villa impact in the game. Now, if you put the villa with your monument, for example, you will also gain even more influence. And here will come a topic that we can discuss later about this villa plus monument, or we can actually discuss it now. Is when you look at your layout and your city planning, if you remember the previous video guide on city planning, then you need urban connectors. And this villa and the monument would get a benefit to be adjacent to mountains, right? But if you put them at the best mountain spot in a city, then you would like to probably overbuild that spot in the future ages, right? But if at the same time that couple is giving you +3 influence, 2 from the villa, 1 from the monument, therefore a total of +3 influence, do you really want to overbuild that? Maybe that quarter should not be overbuilt and should be maintained through the ages. If that's the case, you should consider to on purpose not utilize your best mountain spot. Right? You get what I mean? This way you can use it more as an urban connector and keep the influence bonus from the villa and the monument over ages. Now, another aspect is some key technologies in that tech tree that might dictate how you build your quarters and in which order you want to build them. So some important ones is, for example, how will you get +1 specialist? Currency will give you +1 specialist limit in your cities. If you want to rush for specialists in your cities, then you will rush for currency, and therefore you will early be able to build the quarter with the market, quarter with the bath, for example, and therefore not yet the villa and monument quarter, right? You need to prioritize in the game. That's the whole game. That's what the whole game is about. Another important one is when will you get an additional settlement limit early in the game. Irrigation will provide you the +1 settlement limit. Now, it means when you go for the irrigation, it's not in the direction of the writing currency tech, it's more in the direction to the wheel, which is for the villa. So more settlements earlier, like a horizontal growth rather than a vertical growth, will lead to more influence quarters. And to close on this age, I think there is something for me really kind of interesting about the game, the new version of the new opus, Civ 7, is the overbuild. I often reach the end of an age And for example, here in the Antiquity Age, you reach the end of an age and you convert a town into a city, and you wonder, is it worth it to build a blacksmith, build an academy, or perhaps another quarter, amphitheater and arena, and say, well, look, you're going to build it, and a few turns later, that will be the end of the age. So when you reach the end of an age, I'm not sure you should really necessarily push for the quarter couples with the adjacency bonuses, unless, in some cases, because you will lose these adjacency bonuses anyway when you will change from the Antiquity Age to the Exploration Age. So you need to be mindful towards the end of the age to not go bananas on these quarters, and more use it during the middle to the second part of the age, and not necessarily build a quarter 3 turns before the end of the age. Please let me know your thoughts on this, because I find it very, critical, the whole hard work to build that, and then, you waste it partially a few turns later. Maybe you can invest it better. Anyway, yeah, let me know your thoughts on that specific point, if you want, in the comments down below. Next, we move into the Exploration Age. And here, as you can see from our buildings list, this is a lot more complicated in terms of the possible options for your quarter couples. In order to help to visualize graphically, I have added these arrows to show different options. Now, this depends a lot on your situation and so on, and we will try as much as we can to generalize. When you look at the culture and happiness, that's kind of straightforward. You can have the temple and the kiln in one quarter, and you can have the pavilion and the menagerie as another quarter. When it comes to the wharf, that can be on navigable rivers, that can also be coupled perhaps with a shipyard, depending on the configuration. But then you have spaghettis, if you look at it, on the gold and food buildings, and on the production and science buildings. These different options will highly depend on your choices in the game, in your technological tree. So let's look at this in more detail. When it comes to the influence buildings, you have two different sides. You have the military path with a dungeon in the castle at the top, and you have the guild hall with the guilds at the bottom. So you need to go either at the top, either at the bottom for the influence buildings. That's very different than from the Antiquity Age, if you remember, right? Therefore, if you go more on educational and architecture and urban planning beelining, you will go through the guild hall, implying that you will very likely build a more gold or gold plus food here, right? Gold plus food, good quarter. But if you go more on a military path and unlock castles, metallurgy, then you will unlock the dungeon, and therefore you will likely build first dungeon plus observatory or dungeon plus armorer. So your choice on what you will beeline in your technology will dictate to some extent what possible quarters to go and which influence building you will target. Second aspect is the river crossings. In this era you have multiple ones, because thanks to machinery you will have both the grist mill and the sawmill, which are actually two quite nice ageless buildings. And this is besides the bridges, obviously. To be noted is that this machinery is right at the beginning of the age technological tree on the top part, likely going towards a dungeon. When it comes to some specific buildings to pay attention to, I really like to consider an early temple. If you have an early temple, you will unlock missionaries really early, and it's not very complicated later on to have a couple of relics. Therefore, I think it's a very good one, and this can easily be coupled with a kiln, as long as you are going for the guild, obviously. Another key building, and therefore quarter early in the Exploration Age, is a grist mill and sawmill. As mentioned earlier, on the first one you can very quickly get a pretty good ageless combination over a river, which will give you a big boost to your food, your production. So that can be important to consider. Now, another one to be mentioned is thanks to the urban planning, you will unlock both the hospital and the bank. We see it here that the say possible quarter number 2, bank and hospital. And this is unlocked with one and single technology, urban planning. And last building, I think to be noted, an important point is that the universities you will unlock during the education, there are two, I think, important things to take note of. Your universities will likely be either coupled with your observatories or coupled with your armorer, depending on how you started your observatory with dungeon or not. The important part here is, will you strategize to overbuild your university in the next age? Yes or no? And this will likely depend a lot if you will obtain your legacy golden age path of the science during the exploration age, because if you did obtain that, then you would likely have university, or what's called like golden age or golden university, right? So this golden university, you likely don't want to overbuild it. Therefore, you need to consider which spot in your city you are going to build university. Will you build your university with the observatory? Your university with armorer? How will you build your university considering that you will maybe not overbuild on it? One, if you go for this golden age, not golden age, but golden university. But also, if you target in the modern age to go for a cultural victory, you will utilize the universities in order to research explorers, right? For digs, in order to obtain this cultural victory. So there are many buildings that you will likely build into quarters, into really good spots, and you will overbuild every age. And probably for the university, it will not be the case. You should pay attention to that. Now, a few aspects also in the key text is that in the exploration age, shipbuilding is extremely important for the exploration age, obviously, because this is needed for economic legacy. This is needed for expansion from your original lands into the distant lands. So shipbuilding is very critical. Another one is the education and urban planning. Everything at the bottom here will lead to increase your specialist limit in your cities. So education +1, urban planning +1. That is really big. If you beeline the bottom line, it's pretty good. Then about the +1 settlement, when you explore your distant lands and you want to colonize, feudalism is the one to go for in order to do that after cartography. So cartography, you can go on the seas, and then feudalism, you can then colonize and unlock a new settlement slot. Now, other other pointers in the exploration age is that I believe that the science legacy path is relatively easy to hit. 5 tiles with a yield of 40. If you have a good understanding on the adjacency bonuses and you implement the strategies that I am proposing to you in my video guides, then you will obtain this legacy path almost every game. Even if you're not really pushing for it, it will just come naturally because you will see the good spots and you will utilize them. Therefore, if you have the science legacy path almost systematically, remember what I said about the university earlier? Well, very likely your universities will become golden universities at the start of the modern age, and you will not overbuild the quarter with university. So pay big attention where you build your university and under which couple. Is it university plus armor or university plus observatory? On my end, if I can, I try to have multiple university plus observatories, because then in the future I can utilize the bonuses to have +1 for every science building. Now, before we close, one more thing is that I would suggest for you to not ignore religion. Even if this is not the path you want to take, the religion will very easily give you culture, will very easily help you to obtain your military legacy pass, because you will double up, you will double up the points from your cities in distant lands if they are of your own religion. So don't underestimate the temples, even if you don't want to play that much of a cultural path. It's worth it, in my opinion. And by the way, all these sheets I'm showing you here about Antiquity Age, Exploration Age, and soon Modern Age are available on the community page of the channel. So feel free to go download them. And talking about that, let's now move into the Modern Age. So, in the Modern Age, right off the bat, I would like to say that more than the previous age, this is highly dependent on your selected victory path. So we are going to try to generalize as much as we can some good possible quarters. However, you need to really adapt to your victory path target. So, about the influence. Now, if you have built up a good influence output from your cities during the Antiquity Age and then the Exploration Age, you might not need it as much. But anyway, if you are there at that point and you want to increase your influence output, then you will need urbanization and radio, right? Urbanization and radio will then unlock the opera house from urbanization and the radio from the radio station, accumulating to a total of +7 experience if you build this good quarter. About the river crossings, at that age, there are no specific buildings that are to be built on a river. You will need to utilize the ageless river crossings from the previous age. What are, in my opinion, some 3 great buildings in that age? It's very dependent, obviously, on your victory path, but to keep things general, one thing really important is a grocer. The grocer is available at turn 1. Regardless of your science output, you will have the grocer. And the grocer will give +1 also to the uncultivated rural tiles. And that is huge. That is really huge. Many towns and many cities can get a big boost from that grocer. You can have a tremendous growth boost with your grocer. So don't waste too much time to build your grocers or buy your grocers for that matter. And to be noted is that other food buildings would only be available in the 3rd one. With the mass production, you will have the cannery, and with the radio, you will have the tenement. So until you reach that 3rd column of the text tree, then you will have no other food building than your grocer. Therefore, once again, the grocer is a key, simple building in the Modern Age. Next to be noted is that multiple buildings will utilize a full tile, and some of them, such as the aerodrome and the launch pad, will need a full tile of a flat terrain, and pay attention to that to not be stuck at the end of your game. So you need to be careful to reserve some tiles for these buildings later in the game. And then, I often have this, dilemma. It's a laboratory. Okay? Your laboratory can very quickly be unlocked thanks to electricity, and therefore be paired easily with your schoolhouse, giving you a tile of a base value of +11 science, and if you get a +2 or +3 resource bonus each, it will culminate easily to 15 or 17 science per turn without any single specialist. Relatively easy. Or the other option is that your laboratory could easily be paired with your factory. Now, a few key texts during this era for the economic legacy path. Obviously, the factories and the mass production are extremely critical, or you will not be able to build your factories and earn points for the economic legacy path. Then electricity, in order to obtain +1 specialist limit in every city, is obviously very good if you want to have specialists, and likely you do at that point in time in the game. So you have some good ones that regardless of your strategy, are probably good. But once again, I repeat a bit myself now, is that it will depend a lot on your legacy path. If you want to go for the cultural victory, you will early on unlock the museum, build your museum. Very likely you will have it with your city park. On the other hand, if you're not going for that victory type and you have some challenges in terms of happiness, like it happens often to me when I start the modern age, then I often have a city park with department store. Department store is from urbanization. Urbanization will permit also to unlock the opera house. So there are different ways to look at it here, and there are here proposed couples on the rightmost column. Now please share your thoughts on this, because in my opinion it's very interesting to see for which victory path you want to go, which quarter you should target first, and which quarters you should actually build and select, because you have multiple options ahead of you. Now, a few pointers on this era before we close the video. One is that when you reach the end of the game, you have higher base values for your buildings. Therefore, the adjacency bonuses were extremely critical, say, during the Antiquity Age. When you reach a modern age, it's still a bonus, don't get me wrong, but it has a lower impact compared to the past. So you can kind of feel free to build, not necessarily respecting the adjacency bonus tiles. Another pointer, the port. The port is the only building of the modern age that can be built on a coastal adjacent to land. Therefore, there is no possible quarters from your port. And pay attention to not overbuild Golden Age buildings, because you might actually lose some science in the process. On that note, let's toast to the like and subscribe buttons. I appreciate very much the support. Thank you for watching, and see you in my next videos. Cheers!